Yeah, man!
Hello, my name is Miguel, and today I'm gonna make for you jerk chicken brown stew. You're gonna need an onion, a medium-sized onion, stalk of scallion, 4 garlic cloves, spring of thyme, quarter teaspoon of dried pimento berries, tablespoon of sea salt, tablespoon of dried basil, tablespoon of dried parsley. Any of these herbs you can use them fresh. A tablespoon of jerk seasoning. You're gonna need a pound of chicken's parts. This is 2 legs and a thigh. If you got frozen chicken like this, put it in a bowl, pour some water over it and allow it to defrost. Visit JamaicanDinners.com for the recipe. While we wait for the chicken to defrost, we're gonna start preparing our seasonings. Spring of thyme, garlic cloves, remove the outer leaf, cut off ends, trim off any spoilage that you might see on a garlic clove. It's best to cut the onion close to cooking. As for the onion, remove the outer leaf, just the leaf now, because the first layer of the onion is the strongest. Do as you see me doing and remove outer leaf from the onion and cut off ends. Scallion, if you don't have access to scallion, it's optional. You don't have to use it. But do as you see me doing and remove dying leaves and cut off ends. Root end and the tip of the scallion leaf. Now, rinse spring of thyme, the scallion, and the garlic cloves under fresh running water. Dice scallion fine. Do the same for the onion. I don't dice my onions, I just slice them. Keep ingredients separate. Next, mash garlic to pulp. And you can grind it to puree. At the end of the day, you want it to be mashed out. You want it to be fine, so that when you cook it and you serve it, they won't bite into garlic. It will just dissolve into the stew and disappear. Measure and add 1 tablespoon jerk seasonings. Keep the ingredients separate. 1 tablespoon, 1 full tablespoon. If you want it, 1 tablespoon from my experience will give you a mild, spicy stew. This is the browning. I'm gonna add it while stewing, while preparing to stew. And soy sauce. I'm gonna add it while preparing to stew as well. And the pimento berries. Quarter teaspoon of pimento berry. Dried pimento berries. Now I'm measuring and put aside 1 tablespoon of dried parsley. Keep herbs separate. You don't have to keep the herbs separate, but just to be organized, keep them separate. Measure and add a teaspoon between a tablespoon of dried basil. And remember now, you can use any of these herbs fresh. Just dice it fine or chop it fine. A tablespoon of dried basil. Measure, put aside 1 tablespoon of salt, 1 full tablespoon. Make sure it's leveled. Be sure it's leveled and you don't have a mountain of salt. The bowl with the onions and the garlic and scallion, cover that with a lid and put it aside for later. It keep the fumes of the onions. These are chicken's parts been defrosted. You in a hurry, it's best after a while you just remove the first water that you add and pour fresh water. It's still frozen. I just got up and decided to cook this for dinner and went to the market and bought it, so it's frozen. I'm just gonna put this aside and allow it to defrost. It's thawed enough where I can start preparing. So do as you see me doing and remove the chicken's leg skin, or remove the skin from the chicken's leg. Do as you see me doing. You gotta get a good grip so that you can get it off properly. Now with the chicken's thigh, use your thumb or a knife and get between the bone of the chicken's thigh and remove clogged blood and mucks. That's the chicken's butt. Cut that off. The chicken's thigh tend to have a lot of fat around it. Just trim the fat. Do as you see me doing and prepare your chicken's thigh properly. At the end of the day, you want it to be clean and just chicken's flesh on the bone. If you were cooking breast, usually the breast is not that messy. You just take the skin off the breast and then cut it in half. And the wing, you just cut the wing in half, or you fold it under. Finish. Rinse this off properly under fresh running water. Actually, what I did is throw that water off, because now I'm going to rinse it properly. So measure and add about a tablespoon of distilled white vinegar and water. It's best if you do this in a sink area. Don't put the chicken in the sink, do it in a bowl and just clean it properly. Alright, so once you do that, just throw that water off, rinse it off first with fresh running water, and then put it in the bowl again. I was going to wash my hands, but before I wash my hands, add the onions. Chopped onions and the scallion, garlic, and the jerk seasoning with herbs. We're going to add it while it stews, while it prepares for stewing. Alright, you can use your hand and kind of massage the chicken if you want to, but you don't have to. Just use a fork or a spoon or the same knife and kind of shuffle the seasonings, the onions, over the chicken, and then use a lid and cover it properly and allow it to marinate. Allow it to marinate until you're ready to cook. No specific time. Was frozen somewhat still. Allow it to finish thawing while it marinates. So now, to test if it's ready, use a fork and poke in it. If it goes straight through, it's ready for frying. It's ready for cooking. This stove gauge on 4. Put to heat a medium saucepan or a Dutch pot, depending on where you are in the world. Put it to heat. The stove gauge is on 4, medium low. Just allow the saucepan to dry. Don't add oil to water. Measure and put aside 2 cups of water. Have it ready. After a minute between 2 and no water is in the saucepan or the frying pan, measure and add 1/4 cup of cooking oil. I use coconut oil. Just allow it to get hot, about 40 seconds between a minute. We're not gonna fry any chicken, we're gonna stew it down. So do as you see me doing and add. Use a fork with one hand, a spoon or another fork in the other hand. Remove the excess seasonings. Then you add the chicken to the heating oil. Stove gauge is on 4. Just allow it to cook for about a minute or 2. After a minute, and it's sticking like this, don't move it, because if you do move it, it's gonna break the flesh. It's gonna break the flesh off the bone, and you don't want that. So add the chopped onions that the chicken parts been marinating in, along with the scallion, and just kind of use a cooking spoon and kind of shuffle the chopped seasoning to the oil, to the bottom of the saucepan, allow it to burn or cook. That's the herbs. We're gonna add it shortly. Next, right after that, add the mashed garlic. Alright, the secret is, if the chicken is sticking to the pot's bottom, by you adding the seasonings and allow it to cook for a minute or so, it would allow you to move the chickens easier, like how you see me doing. Stove's gauge is on 4, medium low. Just allow it to build flavor. In natural cooking, what I like to do is to simmer or saute the onions on a medium flame and just let it kind of blend with whatever meat I'm cooking and kind of build flavor. This is jerk chicken brown stew. We already measured a tablespoon of jerk seasonings. Add the water to the bowl. Stir in 1 tablespoon of jerk seasonings. Remember now, if you want it to be more spicy, which it would taste just as good, but it will just be spicy more, add 2 tablespoons of jerk seasonings. But for typical everyday dinner family meal, where a child probably can eat this, use 1 tablespoon. Now measure and add 1 tablespoon of browning. This is just a teaspoon right now, but I'm gonna add a tablespoon in total. So add it to your simmering seasonings with the chicken. Measure and add a tablespoon of soy sauce as well, and stir in. Now would be a good time to add the herbs, your dried herbs, and the salt. Do as you see me doing and stir in and stir in. The stove's gauge is on 4, medium low. Remember now, we're using 2 cups of water. Okay, add the 2 cups of water to the bowl with the seasonings, the jerk seasoning, and stir it in. And then you add the water, the jerk seasoning water, to your saucepan. Now I can start saying stew. So now use the pan's lid and cover it properly. Make sure it's covered properly and allow. The stove's gauge is on 4, allow. Medium low, allow. Measure and add 1 tablespoon distilled white vinegar. These are some cherry tomatoes that's just growing. They're really wild. These are the wild ones that's been growing in my yard. So I like to pick them and eat them at times. I just strew them in my stew. To remind you, if you have a small tomato, you can dice that and put it in as well. After 10 minutes, the stove's gauge is on 4, medium low, all this time. This is what the stew looks like. And remember now, keep the lid on, keep the lid covered, keep the saucepan covered within the time. The reason why I'm opening it is just to show you. I looked at the stew and it's a little light, so that's why I told you it's gonna be 1 tablespoon of browning in total. This is jerk chicken brown stewing away. 20 minutes later, this is our stew. Remember, keep the lid on within the time. I'm just showing it to you. That's how you want your gravy to look. Rich. The stove gauge is on 4, medium low. Allow. And make sure you put the lid on properly. Keep it sealed. Allow. I forget to say, but we're gonna add 1/4 cup ketchup. So get your 3 packs of ketchup if you don't have any ketchup. Ready. 30 minutes in. 30 minutes stewing. This is what it looks like after 30 minutes stewing. I like to remove the thyme stick around this time because it tends to splash and mess the stove up. Sometimes splash and burn me. Lid back on and allow. 35 minutes later, if you want to see chicken parts, brown stew, you can go and see that it's different from chicken's parts, jerk chicken's parts. So this is really jerk chicken's parts. So it's different from chicken's brown stew. Measure and add half of 1/4 cup between the 1/4 cup of ketchup, or 4 tablespoons is half of 1/4 cup. 4 tablespoons of ketchup between 1/4 cup of ketchup. Do as you see me doing and add the ketchup to the stew. The ketchup is going to allow it to be smooth, make the gravy smooth, and thicken it, and also flavor it some more. Put the lid on, allow it to thicken. Stove gauge is on 4 still. 40 minutes later, you can see the gravy bubbling away. You can see how the bubbles look thick and it's bubbling kind of slowish. That's saying the gravy's thickening. If too much water is in a stew and you find that you have too much water, you can turn the stove up on 6 medium high and just allow, don't put the lid on, leave the saucepan open, allow the water to evaporate and thicken the gravy more. At the end of the day, the water only aids in cooking the chicken. After you finish cooking, you should only have a nice, beautiful stew. But this is jerk chicken brown stew. And I also have jerk chicken stew. You see for yourself the water evaporating, the gravy is thickening, and the stew look brown. And the aroma is hitting me in the face. Like I said before, if you want to get this jerk chicken brown stew spicy, really spicy, hot, add 2 tablespoons of jerk seasonings. If you want to get it even extremely hot, you can add 4 tablespoons of jerk seasonings. That would be a really hot stew. Once the gravy starts to drag along the bottom like it sticks along the bottom, that's a sign to say your gravy is thick enough. It's been between 4 minutes since the 40 minutes passed. Alright, so that's it. Finish. Turn it off. And then you just put the pan's lid on and just allow it to mature until serving. Until ready to serve. And before serving your stew, just kind of mix it in properly and kind of moist up all the meat pieces. And take a scoop of this nice jerk chicken brown stew and lay it on a bed of rice. A stew like this, Jamaicans, if you want an idea, you can cook a stew like this for a party, like dancehall party, or any kind of party, any kind of adult party. And two, you can also chop it up fine and make it like a fricassee type thing. like chunks. You can chop it and do chunks instead of the chicken's parts. This is jerk chicken brown stew. Jerk chicken brown stew. Visit JamaicanDinners.com for the recipe. Subscribe, like, share. Cook this meal yourself and give us my time now. So I'm just gonna add a little more gravy. Alright, let's taste this jerk chicken brown stew together. It looks juicy. I think you will agree. It's definitely brown stew. The chicken. It's definitely brown stewed chicken. The chicken is very soft and flavorful and mildly spicy. Mildly spicy. Like I said, the spiciness is mild. I will give it, out of 100, 40% spiciness. But it's more like flavor, like jerk seasoning flavor. The spiciness is there, but it's more like a blend of flavor. This jerk chicken brown stew is not as popular, but a few people cooks it. You kind of have to know about this recipe to cook it. It's different. I went to 2 parties on 2 different occasions, 2 different years. The first year I remember getting a chicken stew that had the flavor of jerk chicken, and I was wondering what it was. And the following year I went to a girlfriend of mine. Well, I was a driver, so I brought them to a Mother's Day dinner that they were having, and they served brown stew, jerk chicken brown stew. So from then I've always said that I'm gonna do this recipe. I actually went to the lady, I spoke to her and asked her how she did it, and she told me that all she did was just add jerk seasoning to the stew. I told her about JamaicanDinners.com, and she said, yeah, if it's I own JamaicanDinners.com. I told her yes. She said, I like your cooking style. I visit your website for ideas all the while. Lovely lady. They have a restaurant in Portmore somewhere. No, not a restaurant. She does catering, like weddings and stuff like that. Alright guys, you saw me eat this half plate of food. It's delicious. It's different. So you want a different flavor for dinner other than the typical brown stew chicken. You want to give it a different flavor, try this meal. It works and it's flavorful. I enjoyed it. Until next time, bye.
Yeah, man.